Live is presented by Victory Auto Group with sports director Max Williams and weekend sports anchor Ray Robinson. Sponsored by Atson Offers Velocity Power Sports, Palace Bingo, and Frost Bank. Crossroads Football Live starts now.
Welcome everyone here to week 8 of Crossroads Football Live, and tonight is a big time matchup to watch. We have some marquee matchups, and we're going to talk about some other teams that, again, maybe that we haven't thought about under the radar there later on in the show. But the game probably of the week, well, probably the game of the year right now here, starting in week 8, was the number 5 team in Dave Campbell's ranked in the Sinton Pirates. They traveled up to face the Cuero Gobblers, and this one, after Cuero lost last week 57-56 to Rockport Fulton, how would they respond in this matchup? Well, let's take a look here at the highlights here for this contest. And again, for the Cuero Gobblers, this was a team that we looked at. They're trying to respond after Rockport Fulton game. Then we look at a team like, again, for Sinton. And again, right now, it doesn't look like we have the highlights here. Actually, there we go, popped up the highlights there for the Cuero Gobblers. Like I mentioned, both of these teams right now, again, for both things, are big-time matchups. This is probably, like I said, one of the big-time games to watch for the year. We start off with a big-time play. Jackson Marie finding, guess who? His favorite target in the matchup, Walker Dietz, for a touchdown. But Sinton, Jane Trevino and company, how about this? The sack on the defensive side. We didn't see a lot of defensive plays from Cuero there last week, but tonight they get some big-time plays when they needed to. But the problem is, when you got a player like Micah Green, 206 yards rushing that he kind of had going into this game, he gets a touchdown. And then Marie, how about this throw? I mean, threw a bucket to get a big-time play there for the Gobblers. And again, they score there. It's a big-time play. That's Dazion Bonner. Probably Dazion Bonner getting the big-time play before the halftime. Jackson Marie would make some other big-time plays. But in this contest, I mean, we went back and forth. It took two trying to get an onside kick for Cuero to find a way to get the victory. The final score in this contest here between both of these teams, between Sinton and Cuero, 56-55. How about this? I mean, I mentioned it's going to be high scoring going into this matchup, and it lived up to expectations. Big time there for the Cuero Gobblers. They now head on their bye week with a lot of confidence now for this team. They now go 1-1. They go at Ingleside after their bye week, and then they finish off against a very 6-1 Robstown team that is very talented out of the Corpus area. Now we go over to another big-time matchup that also is huge, but towards Bay City area. They hosted the Vernia Bears there tonight. Again, starting off with Bay City. This team you haven't covered a lot here this year, probably since week 2 there. And so let's check out the highlights there for this matchup with Bay City. And again, for the Black Cats, they knew coming in this game, they kind of lost their handle to start off this season. Remember, El Campo coming up next week and Vernia this week. A good start up here. Kamarian Wiggins thanks Adrian Molina for the touchdown. Again, Bay City gets on the board first, and then afterwards, how about a little trickery here to start? Jonas Edwards finds Kamarian Wiggins. Yeah, that was the quarterback through the touchdown. He gets a receiving play right here for the Black Cats and gets into the end zone. And again, 14-0 there, Bay City would get the play. But then Jonas Edwards with the 2-quarterback system for this team finds Wiggins again for the 2-point conversion. But Vernia, turnover on a bad snap. That costs a lot of momentum in any type of game you play with. And get the next play, Vernia finds a way. How about Cooper Nall getting into the end zone there for the Bears? And this game, just like Bay City, was a classic to watch. The final score in this one, Vernia hangs on to win 25-22 in this game. Now, for Vernia, this is a team that's going to be back in action there on a bye week this week. For Bay City, they travel up to face a very talented El Campo team, possibly maybe a game of the week conversation. And again, for that contest to watch out for. Now, after the game, we caught up there with actually Coach Robert Jones. Again, he's a big-time one of the coach there for the Bay City Black Cats, and he talks about how the team, even with the loss, knows they can get right back on track for next week.
We got that Black Cat fight, never die mentality. You know, the kids never give up. You know, they could have laid it down. They both their neck, made them kick that field goal, give ourselves a chance at the end. And they just made a big play. And you know, hats off to those guys. And like I said, I hope we meet them down the road to get our get back at them.
Big time there for Bay City. Again, like I mentioned, they're going to be out there in El Campo next week for a big-time clash. But even though it's a close loss, I think for Bay City, they're going to bounce right back there next week. How about Victoria West? They had a tough loss to Alamo Heights last week. They traveled out to Bernie tonight, and the Greyhounds would get the victory there, 24-14, a 10-point loss there for West. So they lose to Alamo Heights last week. They lose to Bernie here tonight. They're hoping to maybe get back on track at home versus San Antonio and Harlandale next week. Now stay with us here on Crossroads Football Live, as after the break, we're going to look at Victoria East, Yoakum, Edna, and a lot more teams. That's coming up next on Crossroads Football Live.
This portion of Crossroads Football Live is brought to you by Victory Auto Group, where the customer always wins.
All right, everyone, welcome back here to Crossroads Football Live. Now, we talked about the Cuero Gobblers there, a big-time victory over the Sinton Pirates there, 56-55. Now, our 25 News Now sports reporter, Ray Robinson, was at this game, and again, he had a chance to talk to some players and coaches after the game. So, Ray?
Max, your game of the week is back at Gobbler Stadium, and clutch football is not an overstatement because, I mean, the Gobblers came back winning this game by 1 point, final score 56-55. And as you can see, the team around me is in high spirits. You know, like I said, those final 2 minutes, everybody was at the edge of their seats, and I know one of them was definitely Walker Dietz. So, Walker, you guys came back with a good game and stuff. So, how are you feeling in a game like this?
I'm feeling great, man. I knew I could trust my brothers to get the job done. You know, we're a gritty team, and we just find a way to win always, and that's special. That's special about us. That's something you won't find in a lot of teams. So I'm beyond proud of my brothers, man, and we're going to keep fighting.
For sure. I mean, that was evident. Keep on fighting, because in the final 2 minutes, you were down by 2 touchdowns. And then, I mean, that kickoff, it set the tone for the final minute and a half. So, I mean, was there some nerves going through in the final minute of that game?
Not at all. Not at all, man. We say, diamonds are formed under pressure, and we're in those pressure moments all the time. So we come through and deliver big time all the time. So
for sure. And another guy that delivered, I'm looking at him, Jackson Marie, QB. Jackson, let him know, Jackson. He was one of the guys that led the charge. A close game. Was a game like this on your expectations for tonight?
No, not this close. It's unbelievable. I mean, we're down 3 scores. This team right here behind me, man, they kept battling, and I freaking love them, man. I'm freaking proud of these boys.
For sure, absolutely. And next, you guys are getting ready for next week. So what's the momentum? How are you guys going to, what's some key things you're going to look at as y'all look for next week in y'all next district game?
Yeah, we got the bye week, so, we're going to take this week. We're going to take this week, work on the things that we need, but also heal our bodies. I mean, these boys, I'm hurting right now, I ain't going to lie to you, but, we got 2 more district games and then right into the playoffs. I mean, that's where we want to be. We want to make a long trip to Dallas.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to it. One guy that we didn't forget about, the guy that responsible for it all, DeXavier. You was responsible for the comeback at halftime, and then you was also responsible for the last touchdown. Just walk me through the nerves, man. Was you nervous in that final play?
It's in my blood, but I just want to thank the O-line and the defense for playing very hard. Because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be in this part right here. And Jackson Murray is a heck of a ball player,
Absolutely. Let's get it, Max, back to you.
Wow, look at that. Coach Feacock getting into the action there. You got everyone looking at it. Again, big-time victory there for the Cuero Gobblers. And again, that just shows you how the whole team, after a tough loss last week to Rockport Fulton, they find a way to get back, and I think that's going to build them stronger the rest of the way. But go into a team that had some big-time confidence last week in Victoria East. Well, they're trying to see if they can keep it up there in district. They were 1-2 overall. So let's check out the highlights as they faced the San Antonio Wagner tonight at Memorial Stadium. And again, this game going into it for the Thunderbirds right now, they were 2-4 overall, but 1-2 as well. So I believe whoever won this game had a lot of momentum going with it. It was a pink-out game tonight for Victoria East, but the Thunderbirds, after opening with an onside kick, the next play, their running back, Joseph Scott, takes it all the way up the middle to the house, and a touchdown there for Wagner to start up as a 7-0 lead. But then after this, East did kind of respond right about. Valdez, how about a little play? How about this is the punter right here. He had a big-time play coming to the trick play, and he gets in down inside the red zone there. And again, they would only get a field goal after that, though. But a couple drives later, though, Rayshawn Stafford, the running back, though, makes a big-time play and gets all the way down to the 1-yard line. And then Deidre Callis would do the rest, getting it into the end zone for a touchdown. That would make it actually there 9-7. They would miss the extra point there to take up their 10-7 lead. But then after that, though, for Wagner, they had some big-time plays afterwards. They got a touchdown there from, again, Houston Sims. That is the next play. Look at this play right here. Houston Sims gets out to the outside and gets into the end zone there for Wagner in this. So Wagner, you could tell, 14-9 when I left this contest, but again, Wagner would find a way to pull away at the end. The final score in this game for Victoria East against Wagner was 51-29. Wagner gets the victory, so East officially now drops down there to 1-6. They travel out to Bernie Champion out there for Week 9 action. Now, we head over to the 3A ranks as we highlight intriguing 3A Division I matchup with the Yoakum Bulldogs hosting last year's 3 Division I champions in the Columbus Cardinals. And Columbus heading into this matchup, they're 4-2 overall. Yoakum heads in this game there 5-1. I mean, for Columbus, it's a team that's lost already to Needville, lost to Cuero, the team we just kind of highlighted there back in week 1 action. But what a start here. How about an 80-yard touchdown run? Thought maybe they could catch him there. No, they don't. Get in the end zone there for Columbus. And again, they get the early strike for the 7-0 lead there for the Cardinals. And then after that, this is why they were the 3A Division I state champions. Look at that, stiff arm, get another missed tackle on that play. It gets into the end zone there for Columbus. So that would actually get up there 14-0. Yoakum really just couldn't get the offense started early in the game, and Columbus took advantage. That's Jamarcus Robinson trying to make a big-time play for Yoakum. And then after that, though, how about this for Columbus? Trying to get a big-time play, but Yoakum gets the tackle. At the end of the day for this contest, we look at it here for the final score between Columbus and Yoakum. Columbus would win 28-10. Just couldn't get the offense going there for the Bulldogs tonight, and they're going to have their bye week next week. So they're hoping maybe to regroup because they play the Hitchcock Bulldogs on Halloween night in 2 weeks. Now in 3 Division I, both the Edna Cowboys, they have 2 straight district wins, and now they're looking against the London Pirates. How about the start here? Big time play to go off there. That's actually London with the big time score and a big time play for the Pirates. And how about this open play, but a mistake there for London. And that gets it down. Actually, check that. I thought it was going to be picked. It did not. And again, London would take advantage and they would get into the end zone. Big time play there for the Pirates. And again, for London, this is a team that had to rebound after a tough one to Goliad last week. Edna building a lot of confidence. There's a big time interception there for Edna because their defense made plays needed to. Their offense did, because the final score in this contest was 55-33. The Edna Cowboys would get the victory in this one. They will travel out to Goliad for big time contest, which speaking of Goliad, they traveled up to undefeated Orange Grove Bulldogs out from the Corpus area. This game possibly could have decided their district championship down the road for Goliad. Again, they made some big time plays when they needed to against an Orange Grove team that was undefeated here in this contest. And again, both of these teams, I felt like whoever won this game could possibly win the district title. So let's check out to see how this game kind of turned out there from the highlights perspective there from both sides. And again, starting off, this was again opening type of kickoff here on this play for Orange Grove. And again, the team literally goes there, up the play. How about this? Missed tackle, good little starting position there for Orange Grove, getting down there in great position out there for the Bulldogs. And again, for Orange Grove, this is a team that's got a lot of weapons, but also Goliad does too. I mean, how about this Cord Zamzo? All he had to do is throw it out to Lamont Franklin, and Lamont Franklin would just do the rest. No one even touches him, makes a big time play for the touchdown on just a short pass for 6 down the sideline. Now, for Goliad, bro, they had a lot of momentum. There's a lot of big time plays, but the final score in this contest here between both of these teams, let's check out here. Final score between both these teams was 40-17 there for Goliad in this contest. Now for the Tigers, they're going to be back in action there. Again, versus a very good team, like I mentioned, Edna getting a lot of confidence there through the next couple of weeks. Now stay with us here on Crossroads Football Live, as after the break, we're going to have a chance to, see some other big time matches with Industrial and a lot more. That's next on Crossroads Football Live.
This portion of Crossroads Football Live is brought to you by Palace Bingo.
I'm here to Crossroads Football Live. We've gone through a lot of big-time matchups here to start so far, but one team that's been very consistent, had their bye week last week, is the Tidehaven Tigers. They traveled out to face the Van Fleck Leopards here tonight that are 1-6. Now for Tidehaven, this team is again trying to keep their momentum up there in 3A Division II, and what a start. How about a big-time play from Cage Dyer on the defensive end, getting the Van Fleck kind of play and get him for a loss. How about this though? Bryce Sleva picks off their Van Fleck on that one. Again, Sleva has been a very underrated player there for the Tigers this year, and he gets it down there inside midfield range. And guess what? Tidehaven, knowing what they can do on offense, they respond right back. We haven't heard this guy's name a lot. Julian Stockton gets into the end zone there for Tidehaven, and they would get the early touchdown in this contest. Cale Russell, though, did some big-time plays. Yes, he does. What a throw out there to Bookie Galvin to get him inside the 5-yard line there for the Tidehaven Tigers. And literally the next play right after that, Stockton gets his number called. He got 2 touchdown rushes here in this game, and Tidehaven took care of business with the final score 48-0. And Tidehaven just keeps being consistent week by week. They're going to be traveling on the road to face Rice Consolidated, actually host Rice Consolidated home next week, who actually traveled out to Industrial there tonight actually in this contest. And again, for Rice Consolidated, first of all, mess up play. The punt was way back. They try to go deep on it, and it turns out to be an interception. So a crazy sequence here, and then Industrial finds a way to get almost all the way back to literally to the 10-yard line. And again, that really put him up that way. And then afterwards, you got a big-time play, a blocked extra point there on that one, again, for Industrial. It looked like the special teams is taking care of business. Again, this game was really kind of back and forth here between both these contests, but we're going to look at the final score in this game between both teams, as Industrial would win this one 17-12 there over Rice Consolidated in that matchups for Industrial. They're now going to be their big win, actually big win there for Coach Ludicky and this team. They're going to be going on another matchup at home versus the Bowling Bulldogs next week, which is going to be huge for playoff situations there for Industrial in the upcoming weeks. Quickly over to the 2A Division I ranks, with the Ganado Indians look to stay red hot in district as they face Schulenburg Shorthorns at home. And again, how about Schulenburg though? They got an early start. How about a big time play? Quarterback after a big time throw gets a little quarterback sneak, and again Schulenburg would take the early spot for the lead. The Shorthorns coming into this game at 2-4. They were not fazed by Ganado at all, but then here comes Landon Arriaga. Big time pass out there to big time Cade Nixon for the big time play for the Indians, and then literally after that, the same drive finds his favorite target, Austin Pena, there for the touchdown. Arriaga was our player spotlight last week, having again 5 total touchdowns. Tonight, he gets a big time impact for this game because Ganado keeps rolling here in this contest, as the final score in this game was actually this one turned to be 42 actually there in the scoreboard, 42-20 in that one there for Ganado. So a big time win there for the Ganado Indians here in this contest. They're going to be traveling actually to Bloomington. They're going to have their bye week before they travel out to Bloomington for a Halloween night. Now speaking of Ganado, they were also named this week's Band of the Week. The Pride of the Tribe band was directed there by Maddie Keene, and the past weekend they finished first overall in the Edna Invitational. And again, they're looking to kind of get more top rankings and invitationals in the future. So props up to Ganado for being named our Band of the Week. And if you have a band you want to be nominated, just go to crossroadstoday.com/contest and enter your name from there. And quickly, how about a score? We just talked about Bloomington going to face Ganado in a couple of weeks. Well, they face Weimar there tonight in this contest, and again, Weimar wins big. 42-13 was the final score in that contest. Again, for Bloomington, they're going to be again facing Schulenburg next week before they face Ganado there in the following weeks. And stay with us here on Crossroads Football Live, as after the break, we're going to check out again some quick final scores, and then later on, we're going to see this week's Friday Night 5 rankings. So don't go anywhere.
This portion of Crossroads Football Live is brought to you by Frost Bank. You can't
Live, or to look at some quick scores here before we go to our Friday Night 5 rankings after the next break. Let's check out Calhoun as they traveled out to Beeville there tonight. They get a big-time win. After a tough loss to Vernia last week, they win 41-30. They're going to host the Floresville Tigers next week. How about Luis? They're looking to rebound after last week's loss versus Pettis, and guess what they did? Big-time victory on the road, 22-6. They're actually going to host Yorktown at home next week, and Yorktown, they actually hosted the Charlotte Hornets there tonight, and they won big time. Brody Meddy made some big-time touchdowns. They would win in their pink-out game in a big-time win for Yorktown. They're 6-1 overall and 2-0 in district. They will host Luis next week. Now, after the break, like I mentioned, we're going to reveal a couple more scores and see who's this week's Friday Night 5. That's all coming up next on Crossroads Football Live.
This portion of